Hello everyone, I'm Sharon. I want to share my personal philosophy of education. For the first, the need for philosophy of education. We are desperately need a new paradigm in education. I'm walking the talk by forming my own educational philosophy, reading some of the great thinkers like Plato, Rousseau, Dewey, and Freire, and reflecting on my experience as a student and academic tutor. And now I really know how important the philosophy of education to me in carrying out my ministry at school. And for the first, educator can be helped by a careful study of philosophical ideas, and they can gain insight from philosophy to help them better understand educational problem. And as an educator, I really need an educational philosophy to help me think and work in my service as an educator and can be used as a basis for my thinking and help me think in solving problems that I face as an educator. So I did not use my logic again, and I encounter in the future. I believe that my educational philosophy will make me grow into a better person in my work in education, the hair of God. Next, the branches of philosophy. There are 4 branches in philosophy. For the first, metaphysics, the second, epistemology, the third, logic, and the last, axiology. Discuss of metaphysics, the characteristic of problem outside human experience and talk about existing one. Discuss what we want to know, how far we want to know, or in other words, as assessment of the theory of exists. For the second, epistemology. Epistemology comes from the Greek language epistem, which means knowledge, and logos, which means science. According to its meaning, epistemology is the study of the problem of knowledge. The third, logic, means knowledge that thinks broadly and discuss the science of drawing conclusion about a matter. And the last, axiology. Axiology is a branch of philosophy of science that question how humans use their knowledge. Next, theory and practice in education. We can interpret the theory or science of education is an information about education, and about the practice is the performance of educational activities. The relation between these two is interrelated when the process of transformation of knowledge requires an activity to convey it. A science will not necessarily enter a person's mind without someone who convey it. So the theory of education is related to how an educational process takes place and how it's development. And as I know that usually the theory that we know is not carried out the accordance with its practice. Therefore, an educational philosophy is needed as a basis theory and practice carried out by an educator. Next, developing a philosophical perspective in education. There are 4 how to develop a philosophical perspective in education according to me. There are first, educational philosophy and educational theory that has been developed must have relevance to realistic life so that the philosophy and theory of education can be applied in educational practice in accordance with the realities and needs of life that develop in society. Second, educational theories that are the form of concept, ideas, analysis, and conclusion for educational practice are found at the basis of studies of educational philosophy. The third, the rationale of the philosophy of education, which is the reveal in the theory of education seeks to be realized in education practice to produce new generation of personality and aspiration. The fourth, educational philosophy plays a lot in providing alternatives to solve various kinds of problems encountered in shaping the theory and practice of education in the real world. It can be said that philosophy gives birth to a theory, then the theory is used or applied in a practice. The opposite can also occur, that the practice of education will give birth to educational theories. Based on this, the three have a connection. Above all, my personal philosophy of education is that we must have it as an educator to educate students properly, not only properly but also correctly. And why we must have it? Because we should not plunge them into the wrong path that is not as they should be. By having the correct philosophy, we will know the correct theory as well, and must be practiced correctly too, so that the result we can match what we do. And as we know, philosophy can help us better to understand educational problems. And now I really know how important the philosophy of education is to me in carrying my ministry at school. I believe that my educational philosophy will make me grow into the better person in my work in education, the heirs of God. Inspired by reasoning about reason, and it assists to improve one reasoning as it makes possible to clear, relevant, broad, deep, accurate, and consistent. Philosophy is the basis of this, that logic, ethic, epistemology, and aesthetic are fundamental topics of philosophy that should be taught to all students so that they can learn to think deeply, relevantly, and consistently. An next example I will give as follows. I have taught in two schools in different advanced schools. The first school, they have a different philosophy than the second school. The first school prioritizes character as the main basis, while the second school prefers the value of what has been done. I think this kind of difference is obtained because the different philosophy of education and of each school, of course, so that the result of the student obtained are different too. In the first school, the students did not have knowledge, but their character they have were exceptionally good. And in the second school, indeed, the students are smarter in terms of science, but their character is not good. Maybe this is an example of how different personal philosophy each person has. That example are different in philosophy that I feel in education. Philosophy can change the end result, whether it's bad or good. And so I should develop myself in the future so that my philosophy can make the outcome to everyone expects. Thank you. This is my presentation, and God bless us.